the broadcast to just go.
You're breaking up a little bit.
Okay.
I only heard bits and pieces of what Sam just said.
Recording now. Okay.
I said, as chair of this committee, feel free to start anytime.
Okay, can you hear me? Perfect. So, okay, the first thing I thought we'd talk about is what the goals
Can I
of.
get that?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you great, Tony.
I'm sorry. Okay, so I'll keep talking.
Now you're in and out.
I'm in and out. Nicole, is it very delayed for you? I feel like it's delayed for them.
I can hear you fine. I can hear it as soon as you talk. I can hear it, but it does definitely
Keep
sound.
going.
Okay, so I guess I'll just keep talking. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was what the goals of the committee are. If anybody has any suggestions or wants to talk about what the goal is, I know that the goal is obviously to become possible tenants to a childcare facility in Ogdensburg, Commerce Park. But I was kind of hoping to see if we could set up like a timeline of what everything looks like for that, and if you guys had any ideas or suggestions for how like we move forward.
Nicole?
Yes, sir. Are you guys able to hear us okay? We can hear each other, but there seems to, we're having a hard time hearing you.
Nicole, you're. Everybody, committee, just to. You have a hard time hearing us?
It seems like what's happening is that we're talking and Nicole and I are hearing each other talk in real time, and you guys are hearing what we're saying about
Probably our
3 minutes later.
Is it better now?
Is that any better now?
Yes, that's perfect.
Yes, Sam, I was just trying to call you to tell you what was going on. There was such a delay. Okay.
Yeah, we would talk and you wouldn't hear us.
Emery just fixed it.
Okay, perfect.
All right, good.
There was a second application open, so I closed it and it seems
All
a
right,
little better.
we think we got it fixed.
Okay.
Tony, thank you for opening the meeting, asking for goals of the committee. And, you know, as both of you are working women who have young children at home, um, obviously your perspective on all this is maybe much more closer to what we're looking at than mine. So the goals that I may have may be from a larger perspective or a broader perspective than what you have. So, Nicole, feel free to add what you're looking for, and Tony, hopefully, you know, you can expand on yours, and then if you would like my input, just ask.
So I guess I was thinking, you know, I was looking over some of this stuff, and I haven't had a chance to delve into everything as much as I'd like to. I know Anne Marie sent some stuff this afternoon, but I just walked in the door right before our meeting started, so I hope to look those over. First of all, I would like to say one of my goals is that oftentimes when, you know, we do committee work, the meetings are not regular, right? There's not something that's set, that's timely, that we have to accomplish and report back on. So I'm hoping that one goal is that we will have very timely meetings planned out. But also I would like to see if there's a way that we could start off with some kind of a needs assessment. If we're going to have a child care facility that is for the people, then we definitely need to make sure that it meets the needs of the people. So I think finding out if we're looking for early child care, how many kids in the Ogdensburg area or in the vicinity are utilizing things like Head Start. And if they're not using it, why are they not using it? Are we looking for an educational component? Is it a daycare like I'm going to work, I'm going to drop my kids off, or is there like an early primary education component, more like a nursery school type of a component? So I guess, you know, not living in Ogdensburg, the first thing I would need to start with is what options are there for families already, and where are the gaps? And then also, again, I noticed that we have this document that came through about a child care center that was in 1991 in Ogdensburg. And while the dynamics for sure of our communities have changed in the time since then, I would like to know what happened with that, why we no longer have it, what were their what services did they provide? Were they used? Who were they used by? Why do we not still have that child care facility? And then think about what worked and what maybe didn't work, or what we could do differently. I also, sorry, shut me up at any time. In one of my trips to Washington, D.C. that I took on behalf of the county, I went to a training and learned about opportunity zones. And the tract that we're in, the Census Tract 4914, where we're located, is actually in an opportunity zone, which gives us an opportunity to rely on some federal funding if there is some kind of outside investor or investor firm where we get funding, they get some tax benefits for it. And there is a big push through opportunity zones for child care facilities as well. So I'm not sure if that's another avenue or outlet for us to utilize. So those were just some of my preliminary thoughts. But again, I think what Tony was kind of speaking to was, when are we anticipating that we'd like, you know, what is our data gathering timeline? What is our, you know, program development? What does that look like? Who are we contracting with? Are there people out there that we already know about? Do we need to take some trips to some other child care facilities throughout the state or elsewhere, if we were going to have something that was more of a franchise type of a scenario? And then what is our ultimate timeline for when we would like the doors to be open? So we can kind of backwards design, I guess. And that's all I have for now.
Thanks, Nicole. Those are really good questions, actually. I know that Steve sent in his last email some of the reasons why we were interested in developing a child care initiative. One of the key points was the education component. I think it would be important to obviously see if the Ogdensburg area, what families in that area need and are looking for. But I do think it is important to have that educational component. Steve, do you have any idea of what you're looking for or what we should be considering for like a timeline of when we would want this to actually happen?
I would just say, just from my past experience and trying to put things into place, I think you're looking, the minimum, would be probably, I don't know, it depends on how things come together, but I would say at least 2 years, 24 months before, you could conceivably think of something possibly happen. And I think that would be minimum. The one thing that I don't have, Tony, is a lot of background on all of the things that Nicole mentioned and you mentioned. I would have to go to the right people for help because it would be, if I was to do some of the background stuff and everything, I don't know if I go to the right place, and also it'd be so time consuming. I don't think I'd be very productive. But I think point by point, you can distribute that to the right people that work with us. And I'll go to the email that I sent out to begin with had a lot to do with what the chairman had talked about and summary, but I also feel, and Sam made a good point about goals, that maybe when you're looking at what I sent, that what I sent was more of a broader picture than really what may be required. But I'm just as far as, like, as Nicole mentioned, working backwards, I'd say 24 months would be the earliest we look at anything happening, and probably you're looking at 24 to 36 months if things were, got together there. But if you're talking about grant funding, finding how we want to approach this, whether we want to remodel a building, or we want to build something new, or relocate a tenant, build something for them and take their space and actually rehab that. And there's all kinds of options that I thought of more from a building and a construction point of view with that. But you make a good point in that, what gets measured gets done. And if we don't go out and look at all the needs and things like that, it may not, it doesn't get off to a good start. So I really take all of what you're saying seriously, that we need to kind of take all of those things right to ground so that we have a good idea of, what our assumptions are before we move forward.
Okay, so I think we should probably start with looking at what Mark Olatis sent us and some of the information that he had emailed out, as well as some of what Anne Marie had emailed out, because I think a good place to start is, can we do this? If we can, what are our limitations? What are we allowed to do? Because we're not even really sure about that yet. I don't know what you guys are thinking, but I think it's a good place to start to see, what are we legally allowed to do? What is it going to look like? Is it feasible for the authority to take this on?
And I think you'll find in that memorandum, it's 6 pages long. I think we tried to address everything in there. And but when it came back, there was some things that I hadn't even thought of, that the law firm research there. And there's a lot of good information in there. I think do after you review it thoroughly, it might change how what your first thoughts might be. I know it did mine after looking at it.
I think the bottom line here, Tony and Nicole, as I read over the memorandum, that we are allowed to do this in most cases. Certain restrictions we have because of the our legislation, enabling legislation. It's something that we'll have to look at as we move along. But, at some point we'll have to decide if this is something we'll do, partner with a private provider, as it was done in the past. That may probably be the best thing, I think, as we move forward. But maybe that won't happen, and maybe it will. As we move along, I think we should, not let that stop us from getting as far along into this as possible. Most of this started because last August, Senator Gillibrand came to Augsburg and talked about how important we now realize, because of the pandemic, the problem with having daycare for mostly working mothers. And, the reason that they shut down earlier might have been there was that change in the number of employees who went ahead in the industrial park. But now with the, again, those that are in the industrial park, those that work at the two correctional facilities and the psychiatric center, in the overall community, I think there's more of an issue regarding working mothers having the opportunity to be able to put their young children into such a facility, as Nicole said, where they receive some educational benefit. I think that's a large part of this. So, in the beginning, when we have to go through all this, I think, Nicole, you're right about having a needs assessment. We need to find out and make sure that that is out there. How we do that, I don't know if it's a survey or something. Start with the employees at the Commerce Park campus, and then go out from there with correctional facilities, and again, the psych center and the general community. Maybe look around at the Lisbon area, the Hamilton, Morristown area, where a lot of those individuals may be willing to bring their younger kids into the facility.
Yeah, I think it also, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, of course, that I don't believe we have a lot of money here at the authority. Any federal funding that we may be able to obtain, we have to leave that avenue open. I think the closer we work with Senator Gillibrand's staff, the better for us. Again, this has been an initiative from her. We had an opportunity to speak with her about that when she was here. Recently, I've had discussions with her staff, and they're more than interested. I think the executive director of the St. Lawrence Childcare Council might be interested in what we're doing. Maybe at some point we should talk to them.
Yeah, I agree. I think they probably would be a good resource to tell us a little bit about the needs as well, because I'm sure they have families from Ogdensburg calling, looking for care. So they might even be able to help like as a place to start for, is this needed in the area and what's needed. And there's also the hospital and, like you mentioned, Sam, the psych center, the correctional facilities in Ogdensburg, which as a nurse myself, I know that it's sometimes very, very difficult to find childcare with your work schedule. A lot of daycares don't open till 7:30, but you have to be at the hospital at 6:45. You're working 12-hour shifts, so single mothers, maybe who don't have family up here, who are working 12-hour shifts, their kids get out of school, they might not have after school care into the evening. So it may be something that we even speak with people who work at the psych center, people who work at the hospital, those shift work employees that have those irregular schedules, because that might be something we need to explore as well, especially with those facilities being right in Ogdensburg.
All right, thank you. You know, I forgot to mention Hepburn Hospital. Sorry for that. I don't talk too much about the hospital. I'm old. I don't want to think about that place. I'm glad it's there, but I don't like to go there too often.
Right. Well, I just know, because from personal experience, I have to be at work at 6:45, and the daycare my children go to doesn't open until 7. I had to beg them to open up that 15 minutes early, and I pay extra money for them to open up early. You know, so if the daycare said, no, we're not opening up early, I really don't know what I would have done. And I think probably a lot of people in the area, because a lot of our jobs in here and in Ogdensburg are healthcare. So I'm sure that I'm not the only nurse or nurse aide or other hospital workers that have experienced that. So I'm sure that's probably a need. But probably the Child Care Council will be able to help us with that, because when you look care up on Child Care Council, there's actually an option where you can search for daycares with irregular hours. Nicole, with the needs assessment, do you have any idea of like any other resources or any other ways we could find out about what the community needs?
I would start with the employees that we've, or the employers that we've just mentioned. Also, maybe the school district, the local school district may be able to provide that, because they would know where their kiddos, when their kiddos come to school in the morning, where they're coming from. So that might be helpful. Yeah, I would start with those and the St. Lawrence Child Care Council. I would think that setting up a meeting with them, the committee and the St. Lawrence Child Care Council face to face might be a great first step, because they may be doing this kind of data analysis and gathering to begin with. That might be something that they're responsible for in that capacity. So that may be just a great place just to start as information. I think that they'd be great partners to gather information with us or for us or through them.
Nicole, are they a state agency or county funded? Or
They're not county funded. I was trying to figure that out. I think that it's state.
Bruce Stewart is the executive director. Oh. They're a council Inc. I don't see, maybe private. Tony, do you know him?
No, I don't.
What was that name again, Sam?
Bruce Stewart?
Ruth Stewart?
Yes. Bruce.
Oh, Bruce. Bruce. Thank you.
Yeah, I know even before the meeting, I did a little bit of research with the child care website. That's how I know that what you can search for. And there's actually no daycare facilities in Ogdensburg. Most of the child care facilities are just like the family home daycares. So it could be you know, an open opportunity. So I'm glad that we're talking about it, since it doesn't seem like there's any in the area.
Right, just, you're looking at this, again, I look at it from a macro perspective. You know, if we're trying to grow businesses here in St. Lawrence County, our park specifically, I think this sort of thing will help those who are working in the area. Well, it may be for us right now, right here in the Augsburg area. I'm sure if we can show, you know, how we do this, then it can expand out to the rest of the county. But this is the sort of project, in my view, that makes it easier for individuals who would, and mostly mothers, who would like to rejoin the workforce to be able to do that. And of course, I look at that as part of our mission at the Bridgeport Authority.
Agreed. And in that same vein, I think that it's very important to look at the salaries that people are making and the wages and what is affordable. Because I think that that's why oftentimes people leave the workforce, is because childcare can be so expensive that when you put that cost aside and you look at what you have left, sometimes it's really not worth it to join the workforce. We have more openings right now that we can't fill here than anything, I would say. So I definitely think it's important to be thinking about cost effectiveness or cost efficiency when it comes to the clients that we would serve.
Okay. So I think we've kind of been blending a lot of the agenda. It seems like we're kind of just discussing our initial thoughts. Does anybody have any more initial thoughts, or do we kind of want to just stick with this one concept of the needs assessment and move forward from there and kind of figure out after the needs assessment where we go? Or is there anything you think we should focus on in conjunction?
Well, Tony, I think, you know, the two of you hit it right on the head that, you know, we need to look at, you know, what the need is out there, reach out to an organization that works in this field, bring them into the discussion, you know, meet again with them involved, and whatever they can bring to the table with us. And again, keep the discussion open with the senator's office in whatever context you two may have. Obviously, you two know what people are looking for. It's been a while since I've had a little one around. So, you know, I guess I'm looking for the two of you, your expertise in this area, to kind of to guide the authority in what we need to do as a economic development engine for this area.
Okay, so how does everyone feel about the fourth item on the agenda, assignment of our topics or our tasks? I guess we'll kind of, because now that we know we want to move forward with like a needs assessment, I think we should kind of establish what we need to do between like here and the next meeting that we have. And it sounds like some of the ideas are to meet with someone from each of the bigger employers in Ogdensburg, like the Claxton Hepburn Psych Center and the prisons. And then also maybe meet with someone from the St. Lawrence Health or the Childcare Council. Maybe we can have individual meetings with each of those entities, or we could invite them to the next meeting. What are your thoughts on that, Nicole?
So I think that the St. Lawrence Child Care Council, to meet with them, I think that that's a meeting that we should all have together. So it's one message that's heard, and the communication is consistent. And then as far as reaching out to the different employers, I think that we could probably make one-on-one phone calls. I definitely think that we need to have ideas of our needs assessment before we make those, you know, and I don't know, you know, as far as contacting people, I don't know, most of these places that we listed are union shops, so maybe they have like a union steward that we could reach out to that might know the needs of the employees there. Or somebody in human resources. I'm just trying to think of who you would contact that would know the most, the kind of boots on the ground that knows the most about their employees. But I think that we definitely should have some kind of a form of information we're trying to collect. You know, where do people currently get childcare from? What would you be looking for in a childcare facility? What hours would you need? What ages? Because all of those, as far as ages that are served, are part of, you know, those are under New York State or federal or state guidelines that have a certain ratios, you know, based on age, how many adults per children. So those numbers come into a huge impact when you're thinking about planning as far as a budget. Any kind of a budget would go, because then you're looking at, you know, if you serve certain ages, it's a smaller ratio of adult to children. So that definitely would impact employment. And I think that having those conversations individually would just give one contact for these different organizations or employers to get back to. So they're not sure, like, I'm not sure who I'm supposed to call about this. And I think possibly having that meeting with the St. Lawrence Child Care Council first would be beneficial to us, because again, they might have some of this information gathered, you know, working smarter, not harder. We definitely, if they do needs assessments with local businesses, then for sure they would have access to this information already, that we wouldn't need to do that. They may already have contact information that they'd be willing to share. It's my understanding that the council is there to serve in an advisory capacity for people that are interested in launching any kind of childcare business, whether it's private, public, government, any of those things. So I think that they would be our first priority before we reach out to employers.
I definitely agree with you. So it seems like the plan, like the work that we need to do from now until we meet with the St. Lawrence County Child Care Council, is brainstorm and come up with what we're going to ask them, what information we want from them, like Nicole mentioned. So I think it would be good to go in with a plan of, okay, we're going to ask where people get their childcare currently. Are there any areas of childcare? Are there any gaps in childcare in the community? Do you get calls from members of the community searching for a specific type of care? And kind of, yeah, just brainstorm and kind of solidify a list of questions and information that we want. And then when we do invite them to the meeting, we're organized and can ask them everything we want to know. So is that a good plan between now and our next meeting, is to kind of brainstorm those ideas and cement down a list of questions?
Sounds good. Also document review, making sure that we've all reviewed all the documents.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so it seems like we have a good place to start. Is there anything else that you guys can think of that we need to talk about today, or things that we might need to do before we meet again?
No, Tony, I think you kind of boiled it down to, you know, our next step, and I think that keeps it less complicated. And if we can, Nicole, you were headed right where I was too, is that we reach out to the Child Care Council. They may solve some of our, or at least put us to the right people so that we're more productive with where we go. And then I would ask, when you review the memorandum, there might be some things that you may look at that you definitely, you know, you're either leaning or you're set on. and what would happen was we could maybe poll, or we could come up with the way we think it should go, and we may find that we're all in agreement, or we're 50-50 or something on that. But I think just be thinking of some things that we can, at least we know heading forward, this is what we think should happen. That doesn't mean we're going to be there, but like we're talking about, do we do this ourselves, or do we partner with somebody, that type of thing. You'll find you'll have your own opinion, and that's just to keep that in mind. And there might be some things that you can solve in your head that you can bring to all of us that we've all compared notes to. But I could reach out. Would you like me to reach out to the council and set up that meeting, or is that something you'd rather do?
Do we want to invite them to our next committee meeting?
That
Sure.
Is that okay with you, Nicole? Okay, so I guess, do we want to, Nicole, what are you thinking for, I know you wanted to see like consistent meetings, and I do too, because I think this is going to take a lot of work. And it's going to be a big time commitment, and I think it would be good to regularly touch base and discuss the progress that we've made and what steps need to be taken. Because I definitely would like to meet the deadline of like 24 to 36 months, especially since this is something that I feel is a critical need in the area. I guess we'll see more about that as we go through the process. So what are you thinking for frequency of our meetings?
That's totally up to the rest of the group. I think that, I would say if we could meet monthly with action items, but I think right now we don't necessarily have an action item other than meeting with St. Lawrence Childcare Council. And I would say that we'd be best to do that sooner rather than later. So I don't know if we want to try to set a meeting with them whenever they're available and whenever our schedules can match up with that, just so we have this preliminary information, because I'm sure that based on what they tell us, we're going to have a lot more data collection or information collection or different areas that we need to focus on after we meet with them.
Okay,
Connie,
so
how about 2 weeks?
yeah, I was just gonna say, I think we should reach out to, well, today's Thursday, maybe like sometime next week, reach out to the Child Care Council, see if they're interested in talking with us within the next week or so. And we can all just figure out a time next week or the week after, whatever works with all of us and them, and plan to meet with them within the next 2 weeks. And then I would just ask that in that time frame, sometime before we meet with them, Nicole, if we could start like some email communication about the information that we're wanting from them, and so that we can compile a list of, of things that we want to ask, things we want to get clarified. So we'll kind of work behind the scenes on that until we meet with them.
Sounds good. I can actually set up a shared document, and those of you that have the tech know-how to collaborate on a document in real time can do that, and those of you that don't can just email me your information or questions that you may have, or things that we would like to address when we have our meeting with them, and I can put those into the shared document.
Okay. Is there anything else that you think that we should do to prepare for the next 2 weeks? Anything that needs to be immediately addressed?
I would just say to both of you and anybody else in the room here, I just basically we sent you all that information. That's kind of all the background that I have. You're entitled to give me a call and we can talk. Because I sent you stuff from, I think I sent a resolution that describes what happened back in when there was a dissolution of the original daycare, and then I can give you, we just sent out a lot of things that if you got questions, please ask me, and I'll give you a more thorough background to that, so you've got a better understanding of what happened here, or where we are right now, because I just want to give as much as I can find on all of that related to the OBPA.
That's great, Stephen. Actually, as you keep forwarding those documents, in addition to our shared document that will have lists of concerns or questions that we may have, I can also put links to all the documents that you send, so we have kind of everything warehoused together in one central location.
Great.
No, I'm fine. Anyway,
Huh?
you got kids.
Yeah.
I'm
Well-
good. Thank you. You two are the experts, no doubt. You've just shown that to me.
Those are like
Oh, yeah.
tall, those are like big, tall shoes to fill, being an expert. I think sometimes it's better to know less.
There's
Okay.
a question from the North Country Public Radio.
There is a question online from North Country Public Radio.
Yep, unmuted her. Amy, you can go ahead and ask your question. Oh, okay.
Was a written question?
Yeah, it was about the, it was from earlier about the background noise.
Oh, well.
I don't know if she has another question. She had her hand raised and nothing.
Can you ask her if you have another question? Well, she can hear us, right?
Yes.
Is there another question from the press?
Okay, just listening in, my mic does not seem it's working. Questions that I can read out. No, she said, I'd love to keep watching this unfold.
You see that? Yeah, me too.
Okay.
You guys hear me? You,
We
okay.
can now. We can now.
I unmuted myself, but it wasn't. It was set to a microphone that doesn't exist. So sorry about that. No, I was just I was forwarded an email about this meeting by a colleague of mine. A report on childcare and family issues in the North Country, and I was just wondering what on earth the Bridge and Port Authority was going to talk about childcare. So it's very exciting that you guys are thinking about how to open a center in the area. I've been I am actually talking to Bruce Stewart tomorrow, and in the middle, I was like, if they don't get around to it, I should say that they should give him a call for for a needs assistance. So I'm sort of just along for the ride, and I'm trying to track and see what sort of new projects and solutions are coming up in the next year and coming years. So I just here to say a big kudos, and that I'll be really interested in watching it. And I will probably have questions for everyone here at some point.
Great, thank you. Sorry, I'm not sure if everybody's done. It's a little bit hard to hear. Is there anything else?
We're good here, Tony.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I'm really excited. I think we have a lot going at the first meeting. I feel like it was pretty productive. We all know where we're going after today. And Steve, did we decide who's reaching out to the Child Care Council to set up the meeting?
I can do that. I will try to do that. I don't want them to find out either through the press or something. You know that we haven't contacted them officially, so I'll try to stay in touch with them sometime tomorrow with that talking. And then at least let them know what we're doing, and then maybe they can't commit to something right away, but we can talk next week or something. But I just like to let them know that you know, there's no surprises here that, you know, we're leaning on them and we assume that they're fine with that, but I'd like them to hear that from me or from the OBPA anyway. So I'll do my best to contact them tomorrow.
Okay, great. That sounds good. So I guess we'll hold off on establishing our next meeting date and time because it will kind of depend on when they're available. But the goal is to have it within the next 2 weeks. So we'll just keep in touch via email with all of our questions, our ideas, and we'll establish a meeting time after we talk with them. So I don't have anything else. So I guess we can all get back to our evenings if you're all ready to go.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much,
Oh.
Madam Chairwoman.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Have a good night.
Thank you all.
Bye, guys.
Goodbye.
Think, call the motion to adjourn.
Okay, that's right. We forgot to do that.
So that's the amount.